Welcome to the second day of free agency. Paranoid, impatient Dolphin fans who are irritable and irrational about what the Miami Dolphins can do with their $28 million in cap space. Well, Chris Greer has made some moves. We've seen some offensive linemen added. We have a new backup quarterback, and we've got a safety swap along with a couple of re-signings. Joining me on Dolphins In Depth is Isaiah Smalls, who is going to break down the moves and tell you how to say the new Dolphins safety's name. Go ahead. Let's get that out the rip while you can still remember.
Yeah, Rockets are Ifantu Melifonwu. That's how you pronounce it. Ifantu Melifonwu.
Okay, Ifantu Melifonwu. He was a third-round pick in the 2021 draft, which happens to be the same draft that the Dolphins selected Javon Holland. He's played for the Detroit Lions for the last 3 years. He has not started that many games, 14 starts, but why should I be optimistic, Isaiah?
He was the starter, I believe, at the beginning of the season, got hurt, and then came back at the end and started the playoff game, right? So there is some – he started like 6 games last year, had 6 games in 2023, had 2 interceptions, during that time. Maybe we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Maybe the, Chris Greer and Anthony Weaver and them know something that we don't. But it was a very limited sample size, 2024. Played all 17 games in 2023, but only started 6 of them. We're replacing a guy that was, basically a perennial starter since his time in Miami. So we'll see.
But a perennial starter who doesn't have much more production than Mr. Ifantu. We've got Javon Holland, who signed a 3-year, I believe it was $45 million contract.
Yep.
With the New York Giants. From what I was told, it's got $30.3 million in guaranteed money, which basically means that Javon Holland priced out at about $15 million a season. As I've always reminded people, free agent contracts, they're not real. Just only count the guaranteed money, because more than likely nobody's going to see past their guaranteed money unless they absolutely ball out and are great bargains for their price, like a Zach Sealer. $15 million for a year for Javon Holland, who joins a team that's probably about as desperate to win and culturally challenged as the Miami Dolphins. And unlike the Miami Dolphins, they actually have a starting quarterback. I don't know what I actually think Javon Holland, and I actually know Javon Holland likes Tua, likes playing with him, certainly likes golfing with him. Now he's entering a situation where the quarterback's a little bit unsettled. I don't know what the Giants are going to do, but it'll be interesting to see whether Javon Holland has a productive fit. Is a productive fit for the Giants? Dolphin fans, they definitely need him the ball, because the better he plays, the more realistic it is that you have a higher, possibly a third-round compensatory pick for losing him.
Yeah, I think that's, what you got to bank on at this point. Like, hope he balls out, hopefully, he plays as well as possible so we can get that compensatory pick, man. Like, that's the thing that matters. In third round, like, that's a heck of a value right there. You can get some good players in the third round. So
if you're good at drafting.
If you're good at drafting, obviously, we'll see.
And then we've got some before we get into the quarterback, Zach Wilson, who obviously is a kind of a controversial decision. Let's address some of the other additions. The Dolphins re-signed safety. Why can't I remember? Elijah Campbell. They all minimum level deal. They also re-signed Quentin Bell, minimum level deal. These are 2 players that are good special teamers, foundational players. Would like to point out that Anthony Weaver is a big fan of Elijah Campbell. I don't know if he's going to get the opportunity to start and compete, but right now, if you got to pencil it in, he's the starting safety other than Mr. Ifantu. The Dolphins, they definitely need to restock the safety shelves. I wouldn't be shocked if they drafted him. Then they've also got the young boy, the rookie, the 6th-round pick from last year, which was safety. Look at you. Patrick McMorris. Patrick McMorris.
I was confused what you were talking about. I wasn't sure. Yeah, McMorris. Yeah, Patrick McMorris.
Yeah. So now the Dolphins have 3 safeties under contract. They're probably going to go into training camp with about 5. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Safety is a position that you usually wait on second, maybe even third tier free agency. They drafted Marcus. They signed Marcus May right before the draft last year for a $2 million deal. And then let's address the offensive line, because a lot of people wanted the Miami Dolphins to spend big on offensive linemen, off guards particularly. Now, we see that a lot of these guards are getting what I would label as crazy money. As I've said on past podcasts, including the podcast with Barry, where he says, "I don't even know you, Omar." I am not interested in paying a guard what I would pay a premium player. Average players in the NFL, average starters in the NFL range and make about $6 million. Premium players make about $15 million. I'm not going to pay Zach Sealer. I believe he's making like $8.5 million this season, which is probably the best deal in the NFL right now. Obviously, to be addressed and restructured as some years added on to it. I'm not going to pay Calais Campbell $2 million last year to probably be arguably a top 5 player on my team captain. He's probably not playing for $2 million this year again. And then pay a guard upwards of $17 million a year. A guard. But that seems to be the market that a lot of these guys got. Aaron Banks. I can't remember some of these names, but okay guards are getting 3 years, $77 million. On the Dolphins side, they decided to be a little bit more responsible in their bidding, and they happened to end up with who I would argue to you was the top guard on the market. Yes, he's injured in terms of James Daniels. Yes, he's 28. He's coming off an Achilles injury, but in the 4 games that he played with the Pittsburgh Steelers, he was one of their top offensive guards, a top offensive lineman, not guards. He was viewed as their top offensive lineman. This is a player that the Dolphins have had their eyes on for a couple of years, even going back to the draft. He fits the athletic mold. He's also got snapping experience, so he can fill into that Liam Eichenberg role if something happens to Aaron Brewer. And then they also added Frank Broman, who is another young player, 4 years into the league. He's had 27 starts with the Chicago Bears. Obviously, Chicago has a disaster of an offensive line, which explains why they've rebuilt the entire offensive line and put some ridiculous money into it. But I looked at Frank Broom's film yesterday, only looked at what happened last season, did not go back to the years where he was playing guard. He's got position flexibility, played right tackle at Missouri, was okay, was drafted, I believe, in the 5th round, has been a backup, had stints at left tackle last season, which were a complete disaster, not good. Movement skills, he has it, even though he's about 330 pounds. He can move offensive linemen. He's definitely way better at right tackle than he is at left tackle. And I'm curious to see if he's got movement skills where he can man the guard spot. People don't remember, but Isaiah Wynn made a transition from tackle to guard when he joined the Miami Dolphins, and this could be the same thing. I am not projecting him as a starting offensive lineman. Right now, I'm pretty convinced that Isaiah Wynn would beat him out if there was an open competition. I'm a big advocate for re-signing Isaiah Wynn, even though you probably know he's not going to be able to play 17 games in the season. I would just feel way more comfortable if he was retained and back here. But Frank Broom, he adds a little versatility. He will more than likely replace Kendall Lamb, who is either going to retire or go play for the Carolina Panthers to be closer to his family in Carolina. How did you view the moves that were made offensive line wise?
I have two ways of thinking about it. On one hand, you look at the value that you got for James Daniels, right? James Daniels, when you look across the league and to your point, these guards are getting this crazy money. So good value on the signing. However, you got to wonder about the injury. Obviously, Achilles, it's not what it used to be, but it's still one of those injuries that used to be a career ender, right? So I'm wondering how he's going to bounce back. And then this kind of fits this ethos that they have that's kind of surrounds Chris Greer, where it's like, You know, the roster might look good on paper, but you're taking chances on these injured guys, right? So I hope for his sake, for the sake of this team, for the sake of all you Dolphins fans out there, that this works out. The other guy, I'm gonna be honest. I watched a little bit of tape, but I wasn't impressed. So let's hope that he's not going to be the starting offensive guard, and we'll see. I mean, like, look, I'm a fan of the value. The Dolphins didn't have a lot of money to spend, so finding value is always going to be important. And we'll see. I'm interested to see, you know, where he is in his recovery process. I believe it was 4 games into the season that he tore this Achilles. So
yeah,
I don't necessarily think
according to Barry Jackson, he should be able to be on the practice field in June. Now, does that mean he's going to be healthy enough for training camp in early July, or come out the gates and, you know, be rocking and rolling for training camp? Keep in mind that Jalen Phillips, who is a physical freak, an Adonis, a hard worker, made his rehab in, I believe it was completely 10 months from start to finish, clear, no restrictions. If that happened, he should be healthy enough for June. You never know. Here's the thing about the injured players, Isaiah, and I will make this argument. Unless you got $100 million in cap space, or maybe even $70 million in cap space, you got to be financially responsible. As I look at a lot of the prices that these offensive linemen, and hell, all free agents, Milton Williams, a backup in Philadelphia, who you are quite familiar with, is the highest paid free agent right out there on the market right now.
Yeah, that was kind of surprising, to say the least. But keep going.
You are going to overpay for free agents. Now, the market is the market. It is what it is. These are the prices people are bidding. What I like about what the Dolphins did, and I wrote a column about it on Monday, is, and this has been years of doing this, is they set their price point, they make their bid, and they're patient with it. Mm-hmm. And like Javon Holland, they were still bidding on Javon Holland, but they weren't willing to pay $15 million a year. It is what it is. But they waited until he made his decision, and then they moved on to their next target. Okay. What Dolphin fans want, the uneducated, I would argue, is they want to see big signs and big splashes and names and players and clear-cut improvement.
Yeah.
And I would argue to you, and I've said this to you, and I've said this on the podcast, most of this free agent class was trash.
Yeah. It wasn't the biggest. Yeah, it wasn't the best class. Yeah, for sure.
And so I don't want this team and this organization overpaying Javon Holland, no disrespect, and coming back 2 years later and saying, you know what, we made a mistake. Let's revisit the situation.
Mm-hmm.
I am way more comfortable with them giving a James Brooke a 3-year, $24 million deal, where probably only $1.5 million is guaranteed. I don't remember if his guaranteed money came out, but I'd be shocked if he got more than $12 million in guaranteed money. And you know what I hope is, and it doesn't give you the inflexibility of moving on from it. If, let's say, you know, just spitballing here, everybody's fired and a new GM comes in and just wants to start fresh. It does not restrict you in terms of doing bad business, in terms of doing business. I mean, doing good business. There's no harm in doing good business. As I wrote in my column, are you going to pay $40,000 for a Honda Accord?
No. You might, though, in this America, though, very soon. You might be paying $40,000 for a Honda Accord. Shoot.
Hey, yeah. You might have to go to an American car at this present moment. You know, that Tesla's getting a little bit reasonable right now. But why overpay for something that's average? Now, Joey Bosa's an interesting situation. Joey Bosa's out there. The Miami Dolphins are apparently the two teams with the 49ers. And that's always, whenever you hear, oh, the Miami Dolphins are in play, let me school you a little bit here. Whenever you hear the Miami Dolphins are in play, that means the agent wants you to bid bigger because you know the Dolphins are coming and they're bringing it. Now, what's interesting is these two teams, they're the closest teams to one another in terms of Mike McDaniel communicates with his mentor and buddies there. So they know what the money is. Obviously, Florida benefits him from a tax standpoint. The Bosas, they live here. This is home. But does he want to go play with his brother? I am not personally on the Joey Bosa situation. I'm not guaranteeing him more than $18 million. I'm at 90 a year, $18 million. We could throw whatever fake money you want onto it. But if you look at Joey Bosa's career, 9 years, he's only played over 800 snaps 3 times. He's averaged like 360 snaps the last 3 years. I am not breaking the bank for a broken down pass rusher.
I agree.
Now,
I mean, like Joey Bosa is great when he's healthy, but that win is obviously a big question mark because I mean he hasn't played, nearly a full season since 2021. I'm looking at it right here. He played 16 games in 2021, right? Like that's about the best he can, do. And that was age 26 season. Now you're signing him. He will be 30 by the time the season starts. Do you necessarily want to shell out big money for a guy that's going to, play maybe 12 games in a year? I don't necessarily think you should.
No, he could platoon in because Dolphins have 3 solid pass rushers. Now
they do.
It doesn't help that 2 of them are injured. So I'm okay and supportive of adding depth. If I've got a rotation of 4 pass rushers, that's pretty damn solid.
Hell, especially when those 4 names are Bosa, Chubb, Phillips, and Robinson for sure.
The names they don't. Okay. But yeah, yeah, names don't. You got to expect with that unit, one of them's going down for the season. You don't know which one. I'm just being real. What lie did I tell? What lie did I tell? What lie did I tell?
That's crazy.
Which is why Bosa makes sense. Last year, I believe the Dolphins paid Shaq Barrett. I think he was at 1 year, $9 million, or maybe it's 7. I'm gonna look it up. And I don't think that was
7. 1 year, 7.
1 year, $7 million. I'd go a little bit higher for Bosa just because he could help you a little bit better on versus the run. He's not undersized. And if you look at the taxes in California versus taxes in Miami, he's going to come ahead drastically here. I'm not overbidding. And also, I think the appeal for him is to be reunited with his brother and be in a better situation team-wise. But then you look at it from the Dolphins standpoint, they got Jalen Phillips on a 5th-year option, making, I believe, $14 million a year. You don't know where that's going to go. You got Bradley Chubb basically in his final year because there's no way they're honoring next year's contract. Then you got Chop Robinson. So you want to hedge your bets. I don't have an issue with that. Now, the question is, what price point would you put on it, Isaiah?
I like what you were saying about, the Shaq Barrett comp, maybe like 9 mil, nothing more, nothing less. I think. I mean, he's a solid player. 5-time Pro Bowler. He's can get you at least 5 sacks in a season, right? Hopefully, you want more. Look, but also like Joey Bosa is just a physical presence. I don't know if you've ever been around him, but I met him when the Super Bowl was down here in 2020. And like when I tell you I shook this man's hand and it like engulfed mine, like it's rare that you see players that are just huge. I hate to use the word physical specimen, but he is one of those guys that is just if you're building a edge rusher, like you want it to look kind of like Joey Bosa. So I would be interested to see what he brings to the team for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Instead of paying a guard a $14 million, I'll be way more comfortable paying Joey Bosa. Not 14, but
not 14,
in the double digits. Yeah. Now let's address this quarterback situation here, because no matter what they did, I think Dolphin fans would have their panties in a bunch just because
it's a quarterback position.
It's the quarterback position.
Of course.
Here's the thing about Zach Wilson, and I actually watched all of his preseason games just because I was intrigued, curious, and thought he'd be on the market and wanted to know if the Dolphins should pounce on that or possibly trade for him. I walked away concluding that they probably should when I watched the preseason. Now, I'm not talking about what he did with the Jets. That's a bad coaching situation.
Yeah.
Bad fit. Pressure was on him. He was probably chasing some 40-year-old Cougars. It was a hot mess. It was a hot mess in New York.
Okay.
Not to say that he's not going to face the same pressure and the same Cougars here, but what bothers me about the Zach Wilson situation is that I feel like he got overpaid. $6 million in guaranteed money, 1-year deal. So it's not even like we believe in him, we want to invest in him. Because if that were the case, we would have signed him to a 2-year deal.
Exactly.
Or a 2-year deal, 3-year deal with some fake money in it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And show that we're invested in Zach Wilson. Also, what bothers me is that I personally felt like this team needed a veteran quarterback where just in case Tua misses 6 games, that veteran quarterback, you were absolutely certain he's going to be able to win you half of those games. Half. I'm talking half. That's keep you 500. Because realistically, if Tua goes down, everybody fired. Everybody. Let's just you fire. Everybody's fired.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm Steve Ross. So I need me a quarterback that can save my job. Is Zach Wilson a quarterback who is going to save your job?
No, not at all. Zach Wilson is a gunslinger, right? He's somebody that I might have like 3 touchdowns in a game, but also throw 3 interceptions. A little bit of the Jameis effect into him, but obviously not nowhere near as confident as Jameis as he would say. But I mean, personally, do I like it? Not really. Just because, I mean, we were in agreement that we needed a veteran quarterback. Does he quote unquote fit that mold? Yes, he's been in the league like 5 years, I think. However, I wanted somebody with more experience underneath their belt. Just somebody that has been through the ups and downs of this league, right? A Marcus Mariota. I would have even preferred Jameis Winston, to be honest. I would have. I'm gonna be honest.
I don't know if Jameis fits the system. And even though you convinced me that Marcus Mariota might be the best fit, Marcus Mariota, I don't believe he can win you games, and he definitely doesn't have any upside. So they did select a quarterback with upside, and let me give you my rationale. Let me give you the main issue that I have. Mm-hmm. The main issue I have with the Wilson signing, Zach Wilson signing, is Jimmy Garoppolo, a guy a guy who's been in this offense, a guy who's won a crap load of games, a guy who's had 100 quarterback ratings in this offense. He's not good anymore. But I thought if Jimmy Garoppolo was going to sign with somebody, it was going to be somebody who's going to give him the opportunity to go out there and compete for a starting spot. No, he signed with the Rams as a backup. With no hope of possibly unseating the starter for less money than Kyle Wilson got. And in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, man, all these speculation, or I have been told by people who've been with the 49ers organization that they don't mess with each other, that they don't like each other, Jimmy G and Mike McDaniel. And then when I heard that Miami was bidding for Jimmy G last year, I said, okay, well, that doesn't add up. Jimmy G, for the second time, chose someplace else for less money than Miami? Like, what's all that about? Now, mind you, if I know a dude and we don't vibe, we'll vibe. You know what I'm saying? We don't vibe.
That's right.
Whether he not messing with me or I'm not messing with him, it is what it is. But to me, Gardner Minshew, Daniel Jones, who probably is going to try to compete for the starting spot in Minnesota. I would stay there if I were him.
Yeah.
You had options. You chose Zach Wilson. And let me give you my theory on why he possibly chose Zach Wilson. I believe that Mike McDaniel is looking at this situation and he said, okay, something happens to Tua. I get a young guy who's got a holster. He needs to be coached up. He needs to be taught how to run this offense. He played in it with the Jets, so he's got a little bit of understanding about it. And if I prove that I can not only fix Tua, but fix him, I'm golden. I could coach quarterbacks for the rest of my life.
That's true. That's actually a good point. I didn't even think about that. Wow, that's actually a really good point.
Yeah. If I could fix him.
Yeah, if. That's a big if. It's a big if. But obviously there's some talent there. I mean, he was a number 2 overall pick, right? Like somebody saw something in that man and was like, look, I'm willing to bet my career on that. Obviously that bet didn't turn out correctly. However, if McDaniel sees something in him, thinks, and I mean, look, stranger things have happened, right? I wouldn't be necessarily surprised if we see Zach Wilson as QB1 this year, just based off of Tua's injury history, right? He's only completed 1 full season, right? So the odds, if you just look just at his career, Zach Wilson, the odds are we see him this year, right? And so suffice it to say, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, like he's a little bit more of a runner than Tua, right? So he has that mobility, has that cannon. I'm interested to see what he does in this offense. I think it'll be, if he gets the time to play, it'll just be very, very interesting to see. I'm for the ride. Obviously I have no choice but to be, but but I just want to see what it goes. I just want to see where it goes. Obviously, we're in agreement that it probably wasn't the best available option out there, but if McDaniel's willing to gamble his potentially his career on it, who are we to say that was a bad decision?
Definitely. So Isaiah, we're now on Tuesday. We've got an entire week of tier 1 to tier 2 free agents. We get to the tier 2 when we get to the weekend. What would you like to see the Dolphins address moving forward?
I would want to have, my biggest thing right now is having a viable, not the biggest thing, but I think I would want to see a viable candidate to play cornerback next to Jalen Ramsey. I think Jalen Ramsey is one of those guys that when at his best, he is elite, right? He is one of the best corners in the league, bar none, right? Future gold jacket guy. However, I think we need somebody opposite of him because that is going to be somebody who will be targeted heavily, right? And so I think I would want to have a good guy there. I want to see the secondary kind of turn it around a little bit. They didn't really create much turnovers last year, so I want to see a veteran presence next to I just had it, Mr. Ifantu. Mr.
Yes.
Ifantu, yes,
Ifantu M.
Yeah,
Melifonwu.
Melifonwu, Mr. Melifonwu.
Yeah.
So definitely want to see a veteran presence next to him. If he's going to be the guy, right? If he's going to be that first, team safety out there, I want to see a veteran presence next to him. Look, I'm not necessarily. I think what they do this weekend, obviously, kind of goes without saying, it has a big bearing on what they do in the draft. You mentioned you like to say that Greer likes to fill all the positions just in case, so you're not pressured to go into the draft. But there's some good safeties, there's some good guards that I think you can get at good value at 13, right? And so
there's some age safeties out there. I'm a Justin Simmons guy. I'm a Quandre Diggs guy. Those guys aren't going to cost you ridiculous amounts of money. Neither did Ifantu. It'll be interesting to see what they do moving forward. But on my priority list, I need you to continue to reinforce those trenches.
Yeah,
I need some defensive linemen and I need some offensive linemen. And I'm not talking about top tier offensive linemen. Give me 3 more Isaiah Wynns. Give me 3 more Isaiah Wynns, and including Isaiah Wynn. And I'd love to see a defensive lineman sign. I am not romanticizing and living the dream that Calais Campbell is going to just up and re-sign with the Miami Dolphins. I know Calais personally, and I know Calais is chasing a ring. A lot of guys are watching what this team does, including Teron Armstead. You got to give them a chance, and they've got to do a little bit more to create a bigger kind of splash in free agency to sort of intrigue guys like Calais Campbell, to keep him from going back to Baltimore, or keep him from going to Detroit, or keep him from going to what other situation at Kansas City. Calais is straight up, and he don't deny it, that he's chasing a ring. So and he's absolutely in no rush to sign unless that money is legit. But on that note, we will be back later this week for free agency. Maybe if they sign Joey Bosa, we'll be back tomorrow. Who knows? But that is it for Dolphins in Depth. And as you know, you can find us at the Miami Herald and find all our work, including Barry's live blog about free agency, my columns, and then Isaiah's stories as well. Peace out.